Father's Day Special, Lost Nick Cage Monster Films. This is a departure from our normal episodes, as I just wanted to do something special for Father's Day. I asked myself, what do all dads love? And the answer popped into my head immediately. Nicolas Cage. No matter if your dad's on the left or the right, he probably has a favorite Nick Cage movie. Tell me if I'm wrong in the comments. Recently, Cage has been getting a lot of chatter for some of his roles, one of them notably Dracula, the godfather of all the movie vampires, in the theatrical release Renfield. So here today, just for fun, are some Nick Cage monster movies I would like to see. Now, even though I have these photos of them, I can't find any of them listed on IMDb for some reason. So I just don't know where to find them online or anywhere else. And since nobody else has, I'm claiming copyright on these ideas and plotlines. So if you want to steal them, just throw me some licensing money and we're cool. Now, for years, I've been trying to search down an old VHS copy of My Partner, the Werewolf. Do you remember this one from like the late 80s or early 90s? Nick Cage and Joe Piscopo grow up together. They go to the same school where Nick is a bully and Joe is a nerd that Nick pushes around. Years later, they grow up and they're both cops, and they get assigned to be partners. Only now, Joe Piscopo is a huge muscle-bound werewolf, and he's looking to get even with his new partner Nick for all those years back in grade school. I would watch that for free. Wouldn't you? Then there's this early 1990s Italian ripoff called The Terminalizer. I wonder where they got the idea for that one. Everyone remembers when Robert Englund temporarily quit the Freddy Krueger Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, but not everyone knows that Nicolas Cage actually pitched himself to replace Englund as Freddy. Cage was reportedly uncomfortable with the idea of Freddy being an abuser of children, so he had this alternate take where Freddy's children were killed by the villagers, and now Freddy's an avenging spirit who returns from the grave to set people's homes on fire and then shoot at them as they try to escape their burning homes. Englund renegotiated his return, so we'll probably never get to see this version of Freddy Krueger. Another direct-to-streaming Nick Cage classic that we would all watch if we could, Pennywise, It Part 3. At one point, Cage was considered for the role of Jason Voorhees, but Nick wanted the origin story to be that the hockey mask was grafted onto his face after a horrible hockey attack in the beginning of the film. This way, Jason would have motivation to come back as a monster later in the movie, and Cage could have his face shown on screen more. Similarly, Cage's ideas for his version of the Chucky Child's Play franchise got turned down by the management. His plan was to have Chucky put LSD in children's beef-a-getti and lead them on a cannibalistic rampage against their parents and society in general. The idea was judged as too expensive to shoot, and Mark Hamill was hired as the new voice instead. Also sadly lost to history was Godzilla the later years, in which Cage donned a spiky jacket and a gray-haired wig. Then he dramatically issued forth soliloquies about the pains of being an aging giant kaiju monster that women don't understand. I don't know about you, but I would watch the hell out of that. Next up, Leprechaun Hellhole. Cage is a businessman who comes home one night to find his town overrun by leprechauns from hell. Can he find his family and save them in time? This was followed only a half year later by Gnomesville, Leprechaun Hellhole 2, in which a completely different special effects crew created entirely different looking leprechauns. That's why the title of the film calls them gnomes. This one is more of a remake than a sequel, although it does feature an extra scene where Cage takes LSD and pours vodka all over himself, so it's really the better of the two pictures. When Tim Burton made his ill-fated Dark Shadows reboot, not many people know that he auditioned Nicolas Cage for the role of Barnabas Collins. I have little doubt that his performance would have been memorable. Now we get to one of my favorite Nick Cage franchises, even more than Ghost Rider, and that would be Squatch World 1, 2, and 3. Or did they make 4? Or 3 or 4, whatever it is. I do wish he'd make another one. I love the Squatch World movies. So we all know what happens in these flicks. A bunch of Sasquatches go on a rampage in some small towns, but each of the people they bite turn into Sasquatches as well, so they're Were-Squatches, see? It's sort of like a zombie movie, only with a whole bunch of big feet who are contagious and change everyone else into big feet as well. I mean, how can that not be a good movie? The first one starts with Nicolas Cage coming home from work to find his town taken over by ape men. Everyone remembers the scene where his teenage son gets surrounded by the Were-Squatches, and it cuts away to Cage's reaction as his son gets turned into one of the monsters. As the sequels went on, Cage switched sides several times, occasionally fighting with rogue bands of Sasquatches against evil humans, other times fighting for both sides to find common ground. A lot of it felt inspired by the Planet of the Apes movies, but the inclusion of real-life Bigfoot folklore kept the series feeling fresh to me through all the sequels, however many there were. Then, of course, Nick Cage went north to battle the Snow Devil of the Himalayas. The Snow Devil was a CGI monster made of ice who had the power to make snow and ice come alive in the forms of little CGI snow demons who would cause all kinds of havoc when the weather was cold enough. Cage fought them with a flamethrower, but I think in the end it was supposed to be global warming that killed them. And we get a lecture and a moral about how climate change is bad, but climate change just killed off the bad guys that Nick Cage couldn't kill, so I find the ending confusing. There is no confusion at all, however, about my unequivocal enthusiasm for the Snow Squatch franchise with Evil Longoria. Somehow Cage and Longoria make one of those movie couples that you could sit and watch do anything. I don't know what it is about the chemistry between the two of them, but they give off a presence, as though they really are hot for each other. And that's kind of all you need for a series of films about a bathing suit model on a photo shoot in the Himalayas with her photographer slash bodyguard slash boyfriend, Nick Cage. When a Yeti unexpectedly attacks Longoria behind the scenes on a photo shoot, Cage fights him off. This leads to increasingly more frightening attacks from the Yeti, and those attacks are met with equal and opposite force each time by Cage. Here's a shot from the set of the first one. Cage and the monster are both asking the director what their motivation is. The second of these movies was the one that introduced the famous Nick Cage face-mounted hands-free machine gun. In real life, something like this would probably melt your eyeball and crack open your skull. But Nick Cage movies take place in a better world, a more perfect and epic world of badassery. In the third film, Cage is bitten by one of the Yeti, and in a lapse of logic stolen from his own Were-Squatch World series, our hero begins to turn into a Were-Yeti. Will he remain on the side of his lover Eva Longoria and the human race? Will he betray all of us and go off with the Yeti? I honestly don't remember how the third one ends, so I hope this one comes to streaming again soon, so I can refresh my memory. I've saved my absolute favorite for last, and that would be the trilogy of films released under various names such as Lichen Island, or Lugaroo Island, also known in various countries as Wolfman in the Quicksand, Island of the Werewolves, Lycanthropic Lagoon, and Nicolas Cage vs. the Dogman Army. It's really one feature film that lasts about 90 minutes, and two 1-hour TV pilots that were each expanded into 80-minute made-for-cable features, rerunning scenes from each other and the original to add nearly a half-hour of padding to each film. That only makes them better, believe me. The first film was shot in Europe in various locations, but was supposed to take place in the tropics. The second one was shot on sets in Mexico, and was also supposed to be set in the tropics. None of this matters because, as you can see, it's Nick Cage battling giant werewolves. A whole bunch of giant werewolves. And everybody's trying to kill each other for 80 minutes. Until Cage kisses a hot chick, cracks a dad joke, and the movie is over. And speaking of dad jokes, I guess this entire video has been one long one. So I hope you come back later this week when we have some new animations for you. Not starring Nick Cage, unfortunately, but definitely starring cryptids like the Dogman. Hope to see you then, And happy Father's Day. Thanks, Biggie. And thanks to all of you for watching this far. If you liked it, please click like. If you'd like to see more of our work, please subscribe. And also click that bell icon if you'd like to be notified when we put out a new episode. To become an executive producer, you can donate to us through the thanks button under each of our videos or through our paypal.me/PeterBernard209 page. To receive cool perks like secret uncensored Dogman episodes far too wild to ever run on this channel, you can become a YouTube channel member by clicking the join button, or join our PayPal subscribers club at peterbernard.com. Joining either at the $3 a month level or above gets you access to our over 25 hours of secret uncensored Dogman stories available nowhere else. Do you have a scary story about Dogman or some other kind of high strangeness that happened to you? Let us know by emailing us at scarystoriesnyc@gmail.com or by leaving us a voicemail message at 804-LA-SCARY. You may need to call back on that when it cuts off after I think 3 minutes. And if you don't want to do any of that stuff, thank you for simply watching to the end. Good night, and have a scary tomorrow.
Come back for more scary stories.